Welcome everybody to the September 15th Identifying Security Threats Working Group meeting. And yeah, so I'm sharing my screen. So feel free to add anything to the agenda that you'd like to talk about. Things that are top of mind for me are metrics, dashboard, hiring status, alpha omega, and security.md. And then we can talk about anything else that you guys want. It looks like it'll probably just be the four of us today. Yeah, so throw whatever else you want on the agenda. We can keep it open. On the metrics dashboard status, look at basically I haven't had time to do anything with this. I did interview a couple people. For one reason or another, they didn't it didn't look like those were going to go forward. I have a basically an outsourcing firm that's available that I can use if we really need to. It's more just that things like executive orders and alpha omega are taking up all the air in the room. So I don't know when I'll be able to get to this. It's not super critical. Like nothing's going to break anytime soon. So we'll probably revisit after maybe after November. Unless anybody else out there would like to take this one. Alpha Omega. This one is actually going quite well. We've updated the proposal that I think everybody's seen. If not, please take a look at the proposal. Grab the link. Yeah, so the current status of this is TAC approval next week, governing board approval for the money in early October, and public announce early November. And this is like the plan. So if you guys have any feedback on it, either conceptually or on the details, the proposal has changed a bit from 2 weeks ago. So the biggest changes, let's just do it here. Change in the past few weeks for alpha. The idea is to use an external service provider to do the actual day-to-day work. And OpenSSF would manage the list of projects, specific deliverables, etc., but generally stay out of the direct engagement analysis. Sound like you had a and for Omega, I met with the LFX security team, or the LFX team. So this is LFX security and security, which is this guy. So this is a team and a project that's it's been out there for a while. It's funded. They have a dev team. This is part of Linux Foundation, and we're looking to use this to build the triage portal into. So there would be lots of additional development work here, but it'll be at least the proposal in my mind right now is for it to be managed by the existing LFX team, supplemented with additional resources that OpenSSF would bring. OpenSSF would still be on the hook for the triage portal. OpenSSF still needs to figure out the analysis part and response workflow. There's still a lot of stuff for us to do on Omega, but it does keep us from having to build a system from scratch that at least some part of which already exists and conceptually does the same thing a lot of the same things that we want to do. Does that make sense? Does that sound like a reasonable approach?
Yeah, I would say so. Amir here. I've worked a little bit with the LFX platform before, and it's a good platform, and there's a lot of infrastructure there already. So, why recreate the wheel and use that existing platform? So yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I think even if even if that's not forever, I mean, whatever the case is, I think that's a really smart idea, just starting with the bulk of the kind of like actual intelligence behind this project first, and like getting the results and all that, and just getting it somewhere. And I think that's really going to help kind of at least not kind of proof of concept it, but like show what it can do first. So I think that's great.
Cool. Something that, and this is where I've been a little bit careful not to attach alpha omega to the executive order requirements or guidance or expectations or whatever, because I think that there's a Venn diagram and they do meet in the middle somewhere. But one of the places that they meet is, in my opinion, the need for organizations that use lots of open source to be able to have some security assurance about the open source that they use. Today, the only thing that the 99.999% of organizations do is check for CVEs and upgrade when they, Omega, both Alpha and Omega, both provide an additional signal, which is that something proactively has been run and a third-party organization can attest to the fact that the results were generated authentically. So what this would really mean, so there's a project called Skim, which is you could think of it as a database of metadata about a database containing metadata about activities that took place against a thing. So it's super general. It's just like a database. But Skim would have a fact like zlib was scanned by X and no critical vulnerabilities were found, or foo was scanned by X and Ruby 2.3 was scanned by X and one critical vulnerability was found. or something like that. Similarly, for alpha, one of the outputs of this could be obviously the write-up, but also a skim entry for a review of this part of zlib, found 3 issues all fixed in the something like that. And I don't know how to make that kind of machine consumable, but the idea, whatever goodness alpha omega provides should be able to be consumable in some way by parties that use the things that we analyze. Does that make sense, Luigi?
Just a question. Scan a project to find vulnerabilities very good in open source, especially from some projects that are very popular in other big open source projects. But at the same time, maybe they are written in different languages. How do you think that we can scan them? I mean, zlib probably is written in C, so it is quite easy. And some critical library are written in C, C++, and similar one. But the technology is evolving quite fast, especially the web-oriented one. And there are some new languages that are very important, like Golang, for example. And it's not so easy to scan a project written in Golang at the moment. I mean, there is not the same technology, probably. This is the main problem.
Yep. So there will always be the Haskells of the world for which there are no good tools. And there will always be frameworks scanning Angular is different than scanning JavaScript and things like that. But I think what we would have to, I think that some of it comes down to X. So if zlib were written in Haskell, then we probably wouldn't be able to make any. I mean, I suppose where X is either the SSF analysis toolchain or CodeQL or greppers or.
Exactly. This is the second point. If you want to follow a sort of scientific method, we need to offer a tool that other people can use to obtain the same result. Maybe there are errors in the tool that we use, or there are missing features similar, but at the same time, people need to trust us. So this means that people need to be able to do the same test with the same tool that we want to use. And it is too difficult in your opinion? I don't know if I explain my concern.
Yep, you're totally. So there's a little bit in the weeds, but the way I would imagine this would work is we would have some sort of a container, has all the tools pre-installed, kickoff script, etc. So
exactly.
It's us. Now we would have, and I think it's really important that we have additional filtering magic to reduce false positives where they can't go right back into the tool. We should not find any vulnerability that they cannot themselves find.
Exactly.
Now, I think that is a preference makes sense. Right now, LFX Security has a relationship with SNCC, so they get results from SNCC. Now, I can't reproduce SNCC's results without going to SNCC because similarly, I could imagine a scenario where a proprietary static analysis company wants to join the party and wants to do analysis themselves and provide us results where we wouldn't be able to redistribute that engine. We can cross that bridge when we get there. But I think the strong preference would be everything we use is open source, is available, and we provide a simple, container, because we kind of have to do this anyway in order to do this ourselves. So I think the the place where we'll shine, I think, is not in just orchestrating the tools, but in having the continuous, really tight feedback loop between false positives, get rules tweaked, false negatives, get new rules added, and having that. So even in the
also this, yes, because it is quite easy having a lot of false positive, especially when you are writing a new scanner for new languages, and when there is too noise, usually people start to ignore the messages. So yes,
exactly.
I agree.
So even going forward, so after we've built this all out, I'm proposing a team of 4 engineers just focused on tooling efficiency, and like they're not triaging anything, they're just making the tool better, all the time. And I think that's the right order of magnitude, people. So this is different than, in fact, I might need to change this, because really I want these people focused on that first bullet. We'll see. But yeah. Cool. Any other thoughts on Alpha Omega? So one of the things that we have to do for Alpha, and this we actually need a little bit sooner than later, is we need for Alpha. Actually, let's just do. So the top 100 projects. This is important for both planning reasons as well as, let's say, layer 8 marketing reasons. We need to be able to, when we announce, we want to be able to say, and these are some of the projects that we're planning to engage with, or like having something super concrete that people can know what they're getting out of it. There's some details in the Alpha proposal on governance, which would basically mean how we would come up with this list. But I think that, but coming up with this list is something that we can do before we get formal approval. So what I'm thinking about doing is taking the, maybe we'll start with the top 100 from the criticality score, have that on one list, and then send out a survey, like a really simple, like one question, like list all the projects that you think we should focus on because they are important, to OpenSSF, maybe engage on Twitter and kind of do something there and get more opinions, and kind of jumble this list together, have OpenSSF kind of vote to score. Maybe we'll like group them in buckets so it's not one by one, and then have that be the starting list. Certain organizations, so depending on the funding model that we land in, we're probably going to need a lot more money than member dues will be able to cover. And therefore, those organizations that give significantly more, I think the plan should be to have those organizations be able to choose specific projects that get analyzed as well. And I don't know the breakdown of, it can't all be what those organizations choose. So it'll be some sort of a, they'll get 30% or 40% of the bulk. Yeah, and then once we had the list of 100 that we feel okay about, then we just break it up and we say, okay, top 10, next 10, and then we need to, and I think this probably is after funding. We would have the service provider that's doing this work go in and start to engage the projects and say, okay, like this project doesn't need our help. This one doesn't want our help. This one is like super tip top, like there's nothing that we can provide to help, and kind of work their way down so that they're engaging and providing help and things where it's necessary. We don't necessarily need to be confined to the top 100 if we need to get to the top 400 before we find 100 projects that really need our help. That's cool too. The other thing was, since we're talking about alpha at this point, the specific deliverables I think are important. I want this to be kind of crystal clear, and I want everybody to agree that this is the right set of deliverables. So actually, maybe I'll just give everybody a minute just to read that, and I'd love your feedback.
It looks pretty consistent with what a pretty standard audit report would create. Yeah.
Cool.
One nice thing about a lot of the reports, I was actually going to send a couple your way to check out. But one really good thing a lot of them do is they kind of map the current outlook or the current space, kind of what it's looking like, and really serves as an artifact for, security teams, people who want to use this software to actually review and get an idea of where they're at. So in terms of deliverables, this very much looks like what one of those would produce.
Cool. Perfect. So I think the two questions I had for you, number one, this kind of scenario here, like, obviously in order to analyze something, you probably need to build it anyway. But as far as making that, the scenario that I think we're trying to optimize for is, let's say, I don't know, I'm thinking of a real product, Open LDAP. Well, let's say we all agree that it's super critical. The Open LDAP team, let's suppose hypothetically, is just one person, and that person, for whatever reason, I don't know, died or no longer wants to maintain it, but it's like there's a sharp ending to support. At the same time that a critical vulnerability is found and everybody is scrambling. Is there something that we could do today, i.e. this buildable releases and code familiarity section, to make it more likely that we, being members of OpenSSF or their designees, to rebuild, patch, and issue a release of a fixed Open LDAP in this situation? And is that, since the hood is already up on it, is that a relatively low incremental cost? Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to ask.
Generally, just based on my experience with overseeing some of these audits, is there is typically a learning curve at the beginning. Obviously the reviewers and the audit team need to understand how the software works and typically set up their own sandbox environments to test it out and whatnot. And so typically most of that, the cost comes, or a good amount of the cost comes in that learning curve at first. So any iterative reviews or reviews of new features or things like that are typically much easier and lower cost wise after that kind of initial upfront cost of getting that familiarity and doing the review. So it does go down over time as there's more familiarity with the product.
Cool. Yeah, then I think that would, and obviously, like, a buildable release. Building a release candidate is different than actually releasing it, because you have to, like, we would somehow have to get it into the ecosystem, which we wouldn't be able to because we're not the maintainers of it. But I think doing that work up front, because if it takes, I don't know, if it takes a week to get up to speed on a thing, that would be a week that wouldn't have to be spent in the case of one of these catastrophic things that you'd have to do anyway. So let's kind of leverage, or at least the idea would be to leverage that that investment and kind of keep that knowledge somewhat current.
Yeah, and lots of times the audit reports themselves kind of serve as a almost like a familiar, like you said, a familiarity document, something to get familiar with what it does, what it's supposed to do, how it was reviewed, stuff like that. So a lot of that knowledge is captured in the artifact.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Oh, and the last part of this. So what I was also thinking is, you know, to have there be some sort of a revisiting, and if we limit the pool to 100, you know, give or take, then at some point they will all have gone through one iteration, and then the idea is, you know, would the next iteration against those should be simpler and cheaper and faster and you know, at least in theory.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think a good approach to this is what a lot of internal auditing and IT auditing standards do, is essentially a risk-based model where, you know, the higher risk stuff gets reviewed more often, the less risky stuff, you know, less often, the really important stuff, and I think this is potentially possible, is something like, you know, part of our reviews is implementing tools, things like OSS Fuzz and things like that, so that there can be some kind of continuous review as well.
Yeah.
So all of that can be adjusted based on risk. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Ideally, the second iteration around, because that excuse me, sorry, because that learning curve has gone over that. Ideally, it's an easier process and a less costly process. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Luigi, you're on mute.
Yes. About the project level, there is written that it is for projects that are distributed using a package manager. For package manager, we mean something similar to npm, PyPy, not, for example, Snap.
Oh, no, I would say let's be explicit. npm, Snap.
So every kind of also the Windows Store, for example, or not?
Well, if it was open source and it was distributed through the Windows Store, basically,
there are open source projects, I suppose, in the Windows Store. There is Arduino IDE. Sorry.
Maybe it would help. So what I was thinking when I wrote this was, if foo was distributed as over npm, but foo, the source code is on GitHub, then as the review is being done of foo, they also consider, okay, so how are you publishing this? Oh, it's just one person who can publish it, and they have to and there's no two-factor auth involved on npm side, and it's, you know, the password's written on a sticky, and they do this at public library. So well, that's not optimal. You should do this other thing instead, and kind of including how do the bits get down to the user, not an analysis of the npm infrastructure or things like that, but just are you leveraging the security controls available as you distribute. So, you know, even to the point of, you know, you distribute this thing on myget as opposed to NuGet.org, or you distribute it, you know, you have to you do it on Launchpad, and you have to do private PPAs versus, you know, being part of the Ubuntu ecosystem, or Debian or whatever, and just doing that.
Because my question was if we are interested in package manager that offer packages for developer that then can create other more complicated, more bigger software, or we want to also include some big open source projects that are shared or deployed using other package manager for the final user. Like, for example, Firefox, you can install Firefox from Snap, from Android Store, and similar stuff.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I think it's not easy, because it is quite easy to create two different definitions, one for Windows Store, Android Store, Snap, and similar, and one for npm PyPy. It is more difficult to create. It is a sort of gray area for the Linux repository, for example, Ubuntu repository and similar, because sometimes you can install library to write code, and sometimes you can install the final product or the final client. So there are a lot of important projects that are not that are distributed for the final user, but maybe we can start with package manager similar to npm, so ecosystem for developer. Maybe then we want to grow, and we want to add other category or different package manager, but for the first step, probably we want to work on packages for developers, not for the final user.
I think that sounds like the right approach. Things like Firefox, I would imagine, because they are, or really any open source project that is backed commercially, would probably be pretty low on the list. At least that sounds right to me, because they would be able to kind of afford the security assurance themselves. For open source products, so VLC is open source, right? But like projects like VLC or VS Code, like other kind of
VS Code is open source, yes, right.
VS Code is ours, so that I would put that in the same category as Firefox. But like a popular open source product that users use rather than use to build other things, I think is interesting.
Yes, I have a lot of examples. For example, there is TIA is under the Eclipse Foundation, but there is Metabase, that is a business unit tool. For example, it is quite popular, and but it is not the only one. And Keycloak is by Red Hat, so they are quite good, I suppose. But I mean, if we start to search the most popular, especially related to the database that you can use both in production or environment, so in a sort of business environment, but also in your personal one, probably we can find a lot of good open source projects without maybe, enough people that can work on the security full time, or because it's not easy.
I guess so. Postgres is going around in my head, like.
Example.
Should we do, and maybe that's where this initial engagement plan. So let's suppose that for whatever reason, either it comes up high on the criticality score, or we vote and just collectively we think that Postgres is actually a critical open source project. I mean, it is obviously a critical open source project, but we think it should be top of the list. And the engagement plan, is created, and the resulting engagement plan is like, they've been audited 4 times in the past year. There are no findings. They have a spectacular security record. Everything is automated. The maintainers say they don't need anything. That's fine. Like, it can kind of, other than maybe being able to build it.
Yes.
Like if there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do, and that's great. But on the other hand, if they were like, no, actually, like, we need a lot of help here and there and this other thing, then just because you're not just because it isn't a library that you're using like within your code, Postgres obviously is fundamental to lots and lots of organizations. So
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. I think that's good. Cool. So yeah. So I guess what I'd request is, take one more look at Alpha Omega. Any comments, throw them in the doc. I will keep iterating on it. Presenting the attack next week. I'll probably continue to iterate on it with feedback from attack. So expect more tweaks and things. Obviously, if there's budget negotiation, then we'll need to go back and figure out how to make it work. Given whatever constraints we get. But come up with this list of 100 projects. So the what I can do, 100 from criticality. Why don't you send survey to OpenSSF asking for input, and then we'll just it'll be anonymous, so nobody has to feel like they have to give away their organization's secret things they depend on. But we'll mash those all together, and then we'll figure out how to do a prioritization voting game to sort those in an order that we think makes sense. So that. Cool. Anything else on Alpha Omega? Cool. Welcome, Matt. Next thing I wanted to chat about was Security MD, or whatever we're going to call it, but the Security MD thing. I had a drop at the end of last time in looking through the notes. I guess the first thing that I would like to ask you, Matt, specifically, is would you be willing to just kind of take ownership of driving this project forward?
I mute or not? Not. Okay. How do you think that we should drive this project?
How do I? I mean, so in the meetings that we've had, I think I think there's still lots more conversation that needs to take place, but I think getting something out and getting feedback against it and iterating, not calling it a standard, but calling it an RFC or something, and this is the sausage making. So we have to go through the process of making sausage.
Okay. So, sorry for the question.
If the question is directed to me, then first of all, I would say I'd love to. However, the timing's not right for me, as I've been volunteered to lead the effort, actually, to largely in part figure out how we align our own internal compliance, security compliance assessments and things like that around OpenSSF technologies. So, and that's a lot of work inside of IBM to convince all the product teams to have, basically we're trying to create a universal system that we can map to SALSA and things like that. These are all my roadmaps and proposals. I'm counting on Scorecard and our alignment with work being done against a Security MD or whatever we name it, as you said, to happen for automation and for determinism. So absolutely, I will participate in anything, but I can't be the guy to make the deliverables.
Okay.
But any meeting set up, I will be there that I can attend, and I will, I will contribute, all my spare time to that.
Okay. Amir or Luigi, are either of you interested in leading? So I do not have cycles to drive this either. I think it's important. I think it's how we get there is probably at least as important as the final part, but the final part is all the people will see at the end. But I think the there's an opportunity for this to meaningfully improve the
I can write a sort of RFC, so other people in OpenSSF can comment, can add their experience. So we can try to understand how people use security MD, because there are a lot of projects that usually have it, but there is no standard to write it, for example.
Actually, sorry, Luigi, are you familiar with, so we've had, because I know you missed a couple of these. Are you familiar with the previous work that
I have read quickly, probably. I need a sort of, well, I need to do question probably, but.
I've been calling it security MD. I should be calling it security YAML.
Okay, so a schema. Okay, perfect.
As being very different. Yeah. So there's a separate doc down here that has lots of details and example schemas and things like this. I guess what I'm looking for is someone to own this project and like set up meetings and invite the right people and report back and kind of own this and know that like 6 months from now there'll be something awesome.
If you think that I can do it, I would like to do it.
It is. So, I have full faith in you. So you rock. So
okay. Probably I will write you some question to try to organize this to drive it. But
yep, we're all here to support you in this.
Okay. Perfect.
Definitely, David.
And just to be sure, it is a part of our team, this project. So, or we want to invite other people that have worked maybe on the first security.
You should absolutely invite whoever you think could be helpful at doing this. At minimum, there's a note down here. At minimum, what I would suggest is setting up some sort of a recurring meeting. Talk to the folks at Best Practices and Scorecard. You could probably just do that on Slack. Get them up to speed and invite them and get their thoughts and make it a collaborative thing.
Okay, I will prepare a document to handle it, sort of theme, and then we can start, I think.
Awesome. Love it. Cool. Amir, you had security reviews updates.
Yep, just a couple quick reviews. So I updated one of our first reviews on Veracrypt because I happened to come across it in the metrics dashboard and noticed the security reviews at the bottom. So I uploaded that. The artifact of that, actually, the report is, it's a really good report. So if you want to get an idea of kind of what one of our security artifacts would look like, it could, that would definitely be a good example. And then the second thing I did was just trying to close out some of the issues. I saw, I believe it was you, Michael, that to add the Mozilla VPN review that just got published a week or two ago. So I just went ahead and added that to the repo as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Super.
So yeah, overall it's good. I just had one, I guess, bit of comment, I guess, or feedback is sometimes the configuring the YAML text can be a little, arduous. So I was wondering, is it possible to, to be able to choose kind of from a preset list of options when we're putting things in, like implementation, non-implementation, or implementation partial, for example, just to reduce those errors from coming up, so we know, I can pick from these three things. I can pick, this one that applies to this review the most, instead of just inputting the text, just typing it in.
Yep, absolutely. I'm just give me. Where is it? docs. Yeah. You should be able to just do that. So this is a file in the docs folder. So this has everything there. So you fill it out. And you do that, and then it complains because you didn't fill out everything you needed to fill out. I think even here. Even this, it validates the package URLs. And then.
This is great, though, this document. I'm not sure I've seen it yet.
Oh. And then the output should be validatable markdown. And it's awkward because now you got to like copy to the clipboard and then post it into a thing. So it could be better, but
this is a solid start, though. This, I think, will make that part so much easier. I was just typing it all in kind of from so yeah, this is great. So this is also in the GitHub then.
It's in the I thought that we published this to the GitHub IO. How do you get from here to like the github.io. No, so it's OSSF.github.io/security reviews. It's actually online. You should just be able to just go right there and do that.
Perfect.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So sorry, I thought that you knew about this, so I apologize to
No worries.
make you do the stuff by hand. Cool. Awesome. And in fact, so obviously we didn't make it clear enough in the project. So let's we'll update the README or something to point folks to that, because I wouldn't want anybody else trying to do it by hand. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that or any other topic? Cool. You guys can get a couple minutes back. But again, homework for everybody is if you haven't, if you read it and completely agree with everything wholeheartedly, then you don't need to do anything. But if either of those aren't true, please add your comments to the Alpha Omega doc here. So hoping that by the next time we meet, we'll be preparing for the governance board money discussion, and then a couple times after that, we'll announce publicly. So good. Thanks everybody for their time.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.